Music is like love, but the song is like that one girl, that one special girl. That's what a song is. That's the difference. A song could be anything and everything and nothing, you know. When I'm at my lowest or when I'm at my highest, that's when I love listening to songs. That's when songs have the most effect on me. Because I really get that strong association with songs. When I listen to a song, especially if it was from some time ago, all these things, you know, come back. I associate songs with a time and a place. That's what songs are to me, almost like a time-traveling capsule.
You're a blessing down from above.
No one really decides that they're going to do music in Malaysia. Most of the time, they kind of just fall into it, you know, for whatever reason. So I just kind of always kept it on the side, and I had this idea of organizing an open mic of my own, and I did that in university. So that was also the foundation for what later would be my gig organizing, the gig organizing part of my music career.
My name is Reza, I'm the organizer of the show. You just have to come and see me and register. Okay? Thank you.
We've seen in the past 5 years the ears of people in general opening in ways that we've never seen before in, like, you know, in the past 10 or 20 years. And I think it's a lot of things, you know, social media and technology, just the accessibility of music is so high now. I'm very interested in the development of young musicians, and especially as someone who organizes shows and helping facilitate that journey and just enriching the scene in general. I'm very interested in that. And just so happened we had a few, I guess, flagship acts that came out at the right time, that came out and made such an impact and gave people the feeling that, hey, we have more to our scene than what I initially thought. So when we have these real examples of success, it affects the scene.
Next up we have Juxtapose.
Kids in general are not afraid. They're not nervous. They don't feel like, oh my god, you know. They're all like, oh yeah, first time playing, a bit nervous, but that's it. They're like, I do this all the time on my YouTube channel. They're not afraid compared to, like, you know, when we started out. So it's very, very interesting. I think it's almost like we're prepping ourselves for something bigger. So if I can be part of that process, doing a show that can actually help inspire people in a very real way, no matter big or small, you know, to kind of try out music or do music or explore music, I think that's very special. Nice fat guitar sound there. I like to kind of focus on the non-music fan. I want to heighten the appreciation for the arts amongst the average Malaysian, which is essentially like the masses. I love that feeling that, you know, people can come in like, wow, like this also can. That is why I do what I do, in hopes that, you know, maybe because of a gig I organize or because of an opportunity I present, somebody gets that stage time or gets that little push that they need that might propel them to enormous heights.
Can I see you tonight? Would it be alright to see?
to get up on a stage on your own, playing something you wrote to a bunch of people who don't know you, don't owe you anything, and possibly paid to be there, so you kind of need to like do a good job, can be kind of scary. I live for that connection, that kind of rapport that you can have with someone that you don't know just came to your show. I think as a country, we're always kind of looking outside to when it comes to benchmarks, and we kind of forget the fact that we have so many things here. When we talk about talent, when we talk about our natural resources, when we talk about our own people, you know. So I think the recent movement in music is kind of replenishing our self-esteem as a people somewhat. We are slowly feeling like we're proud to be Malaysian, you know. Just from a musical standpoint, I mean, there's so many things to be proud about actually, but you know, with all these Malaysians who are doing so well, you know, you feel that real sense when you see back in the day when badminton was doing really well, you know, that kind of spirit. Or even if you think back to Sheila Majid and Zanabadin time, that was a very like together time when it came to music. I think music is one of those things that could possibly bring us back together. Bringing people together who might not have hung out together on their own, but because of a show, they're there. I think that's the bigger picture. What am I when I strip all these things away, you know? It's not something that's easily answered, I feel. So when I do music, when I choose to do this instead of put on a suit and go into an office, it's a very specific choice I make, and I'm trying to come closer to the person that I am. I think that you should stop, take a second, and think about where you're going before you fill out that job application, before you log in your 3rd year at that company. Think about what you're doing. Is this where you want to be? In the music that I write, and in the kind of acts that I book and promote and push, and kind of shows that I do, it's all about expanding your mental horizon. You know, there are other things, there are other ways. You know, don't be afraid.
It always starts like this. I'm backstage. I'm nervous, my heart is racing, my palms are sweaty. Running through my stuff in my head, my material. And then my name is called. I walk on the stage and immediately the spotlight is just in your eye. You can barely make out like a sea of faces in the first few rows, and then it's darkness. For that split second before I start speaking, I hear that silence. The way I see it is that I'm not talking to specifically one person, or I can't talk to 300 people at once. It feels like I'm talking to myself, and there's a laugh track in my life. It's like a real life sitcom, and that's the best feeling, I think, every time I perform. In high school, I did sketches, right? And my small-time dream then was to perform in this place called Actors Studio Bangsa. One day they had an event called Free Flow, which was an open mic night. And you pay 10 ringgits, you got 10 minutes on stage. So I collected my week's worth of allowance. I paid 10 ringgit. Can you imagine my first show? I actually paid 10 ringgit to perform. I went there and they said, do comedy. And I was like, okay, I can put on a sketch. And they say, no, this is stand-up comedy. Just one man, one mic, telling jokes. So I wrote my own jokes and stuff. I went on stage, I performed them. Some hit, some miss. A few months later, my friend calls me up. And he says, hey, there's a comedy competition. Let's join. And I told him, like, no, I don't know what's this about. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And he says, hey, bro, first prize, 500 ringgit. For a young kid, that's a lot of money. And I was like, okay, let's do it. I won that competition. I got that 500 ringgit. And at the time, the event organizer, he said, boy, I'm going to give you some money. You do the same thing at my show. At that point, I honestly asked him, you mean people do this as a job? He says, yes. And that was when I felt like, you know, I think I just broke life. Like this, I just found a loophole to life. People always have that one question they want to ask me, which is, boy, comedy can make money or not? Personally, I think, yes, it can, but you have to invest a lot of time making yourself better. If you're good, people notice, and thankfully they did. Like today, I can now put my sister through university, and like my family, my mom, they're all taken care of, and it's been good for me. In comedy, the one golden rule is you have to be honest, because people can tell when you're making something up. So I use a lot of my life experiences, my observations. Since young, I've always liked observing people, how people behave. I like that position a lot because I just sit in the background, I just watch. I think that skill of observing people has helped today. When I'm on stage, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tell people like, hey, these are stories from my life, my real experiences. Look how hard life is for me. But what I'm saying is it's okay and it can be funny. And that's what I'm hoping people would feel as well. One of the best advice that I've been given in my career came from a friend of mine. This was after my 2 years disappearance, and he found me and he said, "What happened to you?" I said, "I can't do comedy anymore. I doubt myself so much. I'm so afraid to go on stage." And he told me, he said, "You should be happy you doubt yourself, because when you can doubt yourself, that's when you know you are real. And when you know you are real, the audience can see that you are real. So be happy that you can still doubt yourself. Because the worst thing that can happen for a comedian is overconfidence." And that is something I remember till today.
What did I do? What's my right? Well, don't get me wrong, I would love to be from Nigeria because every single one of them seems to be a prince.
There's almost a science to comedy. For example, there are formulas like the standard jokes, knock-knock jokes. You need to know the joke for it to work. You need to know that I say knock-knock, you say who's there, I say something, you say something who, and then I give you the joke. That's a formula. Or like, why did the chicken cross the road? Or 3 different people walk into a bar. But those are stock jokes. Those are jokes people know, the formula people know. But when I'm on stage, you use stuff like rule of 3. Rule of 3 means that you give 3 examples. First example, second example is better, third example shocks you. That causes them to react differently, and then you give different jokes. Then you get the gradual laughter, and you bring them along on a journey. It's almost like writing the equation while you are on stage. I've got 2 principles in life. Number 1 is be educable, meaning allow yourself to constantly learn. If there's something to be learned, learn. Number 2 is always be able to accept who you are. And that's not as easy as it sounds, I think.
I went to Jenhan in Montana. I walk in the lane, they give you that authentic feel. They start shouting at you like this. And they're like, hey, why are you shouting? Aku tak tahu, boss bro.
Before a show, try not to expect anything. But that doesn't mean you don't do your best. You prepare, you survey the audience, you try to make out the demographics of the audience. The same way you do in life, like you prepare for your next step in life. But you can't entirely expect or know what to do, so you go with the flow. And that's how I do my comedy as well. In life, you never know what to expect. And it's pretty much the same thing for comedy, because comedy is everything to do with life. Backstage for a comedian is a lonely place. But at that moment, I realized that what makes me happy is making you happy.